gentlemen, your kids too, because our show, Education Exchange, is all about kids. And today it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce a big heart that is one of the leadership of education system in Iowa City. My friend, and let us say role model to Dr. Feldman.
Hani, it's a great pleasure.
Welcome back to our show.
Thank you, Hani. And may I say it's a great pleasure to be with you again, my friend. We've spent many years worrying about
and
kids.
That's why I'm going to call you Ann throughout
Please
the
do.
conversation, because that's what I used to. So forgive me if I am.
I would love that.
As a matter of fact, I think last week we had you with Dr. Murley, and we talked about various issues. But we always like to have you to get into the fine details of things, you know. We leave the broad visionary policy to Dr. Murley and all the details that's happening in the classroom to you. And our classrooms are good, I think, in this city. But I still, I was subbing in one of the schools recently. I still have feeling about the language, the vocabulary, not necessarily the cell phones, because I know this is a very controversial topic now. And some parents are so sympathizing with the fact that their kids is safer with a cell phone and all that. I know in the aftermath of Columbine High and all that. But I kind of didn't like so much the vocabulary or the way kids talk to each other or talk about others who are different. And I know that you emphasize a lot the issue of safety in the classroom and well behavior and all that. We used in our schools to really not see the people from the administration among us. And now I see you everywhere I go. I sub or something, you know, or I visit, or I'm preparing this program. I see you there, walking between the kids and in the hallways, and it's amazing, you know, that you're really in the field. And what are you planning in secondary education for to assure the safety of our kids, and they are not being harassed or and so forth?
Well, Hani, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And the little secret is I'm in the schools because I just happen to love those kids a great deal. We have that in common. We have a great desire for great things for all of our kids. And I would answer your question starting there, that we have to have a desire to help every student reach their potential and to empower every kid, every student in our school district to reach for what they can be. So not to let any child slip through the cracks and to give them the programming they need. So for example, we have wonderful choices for kids. Elizabeth Tate High School is a wonderful choice for kids. We've rejuvenated Roosevelt Elementary School to make that the Theodore Roosevelt Education Center, and we lovingly call it TREC, Theodore Roosevelt Education Center.
That's better than Shack.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we're rejuvenating the programs there for kids who need one-on-one attention to help them be successful and to reintegrate back into school. So I would start there with great learning environments. But Hani, you're right. You're absolutely right. We have to help our kids learn civility. Sometimes we lose that, and sometimes we don't have very good role models in our society. But to teach civility, to teach tolerance, to teach embracing each other, And so those are some of the principles that we've really tried to emphasize, especially within the last 3 years. We've had a large grant from the federal government called Safe Schools, Healthy Students, and that's really helped support that initiative to get the adults together, the students together to learn that civility.
I know it's an extremely difficult task, and because, of course, when I say that sometime, and people say, "Oh, you're old-fashioned. That's your generation is gone," and we look at what's going on, like, excuse me, on TV, on the screens. I mean, people now say the F word, and they write it in books, in novels. I mean, this is new to me. So sometimes I'm really in this ambivalent misunderstanding or ambivalent understanding. What is right, what's wrong? I mean, should we put more emphasis on this? Well, if we do that, how about the channels and housewives and all that, you know, and the way they speak to each other? And so I don't know, am I an old-fashioned guy living in the century that has gone, or this is something we have to correct. We have to teach some sort of higher level of communication between people, at least respectful.
I agree, Hani. And one of the things we try to emphasize with our students, especially at the secondary level, who have a lot of experience, lots of life experiences, is there are certain times and certain places for certain behaviors.
Right.
So when you are in our schools, when you are in our classrooms, when you are addressing other adults, this is the way we as civil people treat each other and behave. There are certainly other situations. I have other social situations where I'm not as formal, but that's the difference, to actually teach students when it is appropriate to use what. And I share your concern with sometimes our social media allows students to disengage from each other, to not treat each other as human beings. We've read a lot about the discourse that people can get involved in over Facebook, Twitter, emails without signing them, blogs, and things like that. Certainly we don't want to limit free speech, and that's a very important tenet. But we have to teach kids when it causes a disruption, when it harms others, that's where we have to draw the line.
And your policy about harassment is a very strong policy.
Yes.
And abuse too. I know I teach at Kirkwood, and we were like the last week they were insisting that every professor there or faculty or adjunct or full-time, they should sign declaration that they read the policy. And I looked at the policy and I said, wow, this is just a copy of what we had in our district before. They come to it a little later than when we started, you know, years ago. So talk to me about harassment and how you confront that.
One of the things we know, again, we've placed a great emphasis on bullying and harassment. We know that by teaching teachers how to address it, what words they use when they see this in their schools. We talk to kids, we teach kids, what do you do when you see a bully at school? What words do you use? And we know from the research that the key to bullying and harassment is the bystander, not the bully and not the victim. It is the bystander who can change the situation. Because usually the bystanders, those who are standing around, who are witnessing this, can gather together. They usually number more than the bully and the victim. And so if they learn what words they can use to confront and stop behavior, that is very powerful. And that is the core of our Steps to Respect curriculum at the elementary level and what we're attempting to teach kids at the secondary level.
Let us change a little bit conversation and try to get back to the STEM issue. that we discussed last time we met with you and Dr. Merle. And now this definitely, this project or this program, what do you call it, project?
Yeah, I would call it a project, yes.
And STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math.
Correct.
Those are wonderful, great things to know and to learn for the future. There is no future without technology. There is no future without math. But you know that I have a weak spot in my heart when it comes to arts and music. And whenever I see the emphasis on science and technology and math, I feel that sometimes it comes at the expense of the art program. Can you assure me, and assure some of the parents who are in this town especially, you know, we live in a city that's really where parents are so interested in their kids knowing arts and playing instrument and succeeding, whether in choir or in guitar player, trumpet, whatever. Can you assure me that this is going to continue? Because you have already a good system installed already. And my fear that this is not going to stay too long if we keep expanding the technology.
I can give you that assurance, Hani. I can say that because, first of all, we live in a wonderful community that supports the arts. We have wonderful summer activities, year-round activities, access to the arts. So I don't think our community would let us get away with not emphasizing the arts. But in addition, you know, we know that it takes a well-rounded human being to make our society great. And we know that the visual arts, the performing arts, the music, band, vocal, chorus, drama, pottery, painting, dance, all of the creative activities that make us human, that separate us, so vital for our children, all of our children, and especially those who are interested in STEM. Because without that well-roundedness, we lose a piece of ourselves. We can lose touch with what makes us great, what makes us human, what helps us relate to each other. And I would refer this back to our original discussion about how we treat each other. If we recognize our faults through art, as well as our greatness through art, it's absolutely vital.
And we see statistics and research proving that kids who excel in music, they have more
skills in math. And Hani, I would say just one example of how we have emphasized the arts. We this year received a grant from the Kennedy Center out of Washington, D.C. We are in a program called Any Given Child, and people from the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. will be coming to our school district and helping us mobilize all of the arts and all of the community and creating a system to be sure that we are emphasizing the arts in our school. So we're very honored to be part of this project. We're one of the very few school districts in the entire nation to be receiving this grant and this assistance from the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
This is amazing because I remember when I first taught art, I was teaching science and art, as you know.
Yes.
And before I taught art, and at the beginning of teaching art, and I didn't have really supplies, so I spent a good amount of my own salary on supplies.
Yes.
And this old wonderful lady calls me from Solon, and she says, well, I'm going to a residential facility or, you know, some sort of, you know, retirement home, and I'm sick, and I have good supplies. Can you come to my garage and look at what you... And I had tears in my eyes because, you know, this lady is saying bye-bye to the community, to the regular daily life, And she didn't forget that those kids need that. So she would invite me to her garage to look at boxes. Some of them had webs and dust and everything, but I found treasures of colors and brushes and wealth. It's like a treasure, really. And well, this was one of the things that I always remember. How did we get our supplies? Now you get a call from Washington and say, oh, we are going to help. And that's very encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a wonderful story, honey.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Kennedy Center, and I think last week you talked to us extensively about Kirkwood, and then you have a partnership with Kirkwood Community College, and you're going to have this facility kind of established sometime in the near future, and it will help all our learners, or most of them. Do you have other partnerships?
Yes. Yes, honey, we've got several things going at the secondary level. Another partnership that we have going is what's called FAFSA. And if you have anyone out there has students in college, they filled out their FAFSA form, and I had to look it up, but it's the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it's a pretty long process that one fills out to apply for college assistance. And we know the federal government has done some research, and we know that 80% of students who complete a FAFSA end up going to some sort of post-high school education. And so our goal is to increase the number of students who complete their FAFSA form. So we're one of 100 school districts in the entire country that is part of a federal grant that will help us help kids fill out their FAFSA form. So giving kids access to higher education, and not just four-year schools, but two-year schools and academies. And the FAFSA form, some people say, well, you know, I know my family won't qualify for assistance. But that application actually opens the door for loans, low-interest loans for students to go to college as well. So that's very exciting. We're working on that this year. We mentioned last time about TREC, the Theodore Roosevelt Education Center, and that's well underway. We are working with Kirkwood Community College and other area school districts to bring programming there that would be ahead of the actual bricks and mortar of the building we're talking about on the University of Iowa campus that's being built by Kirkwood. So we're talking about bringing Project Lead the Way courses to TREC, talking about perhaps bringing home construction back to our campus and putting it there at TREC. We're talking about things like EMT coursework, nursing assistant courses, all sorts of things that kids would have access to help get their feet started on a post-secondary career. That's another exciting project.
Extremely.
Yeah. Another one that we're working on, we are working with ACT, who is our next-door neighbor and has been a very successful next-door neighbor for years and years and years. And we're investigating some of the assessments that they give kids. We're very excited about a junior high assessment we're going to use called Engage. And Engage is not your standard assessment. It doesn't measure your math or science. It measures how you feel about school, how you feel about learning, how you feel about homeworks, how do you feel about your teacher. And using this information, they create individual reports for kids and their parents to help them understand the connection between how they feel about school and future success. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's emotional and psychological.
Yes. And so it's another piece of information that our teachers and our parents and our kids can use to help prepare them and to set their sights high. So we're very excited about that project starting at our junior highs this year.
There is no doubt in my mind and in the minds of a lot of people who have been working in the area of at-risk education that your initiative to open a good part, or at least a wing at Roosevelt, to host these programs at the various levels or in the various kinds. Let me, and I'm not criticizing here, but I would like you to have some patience with me a little bit, because the philosophy behind putting these programs in various areas was not really initiated here. It began in the East Coast and as well as California. They thought, well, if you put all the kids that are at risk in one place, this may initiate more at-risk situation. And that's why they scattered them. One is the east side of the city, the other one is in the west, somewhere in the middle. One of the centers is in a warehouse, the other one is in an apartment building. But that was the whole idea, is to separate the kids that may influence each other if they get together. Yeah. Now, in Roosevelt, they look like they are in one hallway. And I don't know, it may be a very successful idea, just like mainstreaming is. When mainstreaming was first adopted, everybody was like, oh no, it can't work, it will affect my kid, no, it will take away the attention of the teacher, and so forth, and now it's very successful. So do you know what is behind this idea of putting them in one location?
Well, Hani, that's an excellent point that you make. Certainly there is economy of scale. You know, to put one small program in one isolation, you feel you're out there all on your own. And so bringing staff together, bringing kids together, creates a community. Equipment, assisting
computers.
Each other, professional development, just a comrade, a person. And that's both students and staff. And the other idea, Hani, is we have our homeschool assistance program in the same building. We are going to work hard so that kids want to come to this building to trek. Sometimes we have a tradition of taking kids at risk and pulling them away from others, and we're trying the reverse here. We are saying this is our home for some of our at-risk kids, but there's some really cool programs there, and if you want them, you must come to us for these cool programs. And so it's a reverse engineering, a reverse philosophy about who are our kids.
Well, definitely, I'm not, I have no objection at all, because our old system didn't really work very well. So let's try this new approach. And as I tried to use the analogy with mainstreaming, it may work very well, you know, and it will enhance the relationship between the regular, traditional, conventional student and the one that's individualized or a little bit having some problems learning. They will, yeah, that's a good idea, and I think it will work very well. So this is for the parent who called me expressing his concern. I conveyed your question to the leadership, and we got, I think, a persuasive answer for that. Now, I would like you to talk to me, and this is a surprise question for you again. I always prepare. I shouldn't treat my friend, you know, but you know, maybe because you can tolerate me more than others. Talk to me about the process of evaluation of secondary teachers, because back again, I want to go back and repeat what I have said about the merit pay and all that I'm not supportive of. I would like to have some idea, how do you evaluate teacher performance at the secondary level?
Well, at the secondary level, as you know, Hani, teachers are very highly specialized. And as an administrator, sometimes it's very difficult for me to offer suggestions to a very highly gifted science teacher. I don't have a background in science. So we concentrate on what are the universal skills that teachers bring to the classroom. The relationship with students, the use of effective homework, the setup of the classroom, you know, those sorts of universal tenets that are important to good teaching. I know that there are initiatives that we have a state government, a state governor, who really believes in merit pay. Here's my concern with merit pay, and I'm not saying I don't agree with it. This needs to be solved before we can do it. Right now, we have teachers who consider themselves on a team. And if we introduce competition into that team, and we're fighting over dollars, pay, I don't know what that will do to the camaraderie and the teamwork we have.
It will defeat the whole purpose of it.
I agree. I agree. And then by the same token, I see teachers who, you know, as you know, work their evenings, work weekends, give of their own pocket, such as you did, for their students. And I think, well, anything we can do to add to teachers' pay, we should look at, because that's important. But I am very concerned about divisiveness that comes with merit pay.
So the governor is having this new, let us say, commission. I wrote a couple of notes here because you know, we know a little about what's happening in the Department of Education unless we go to the website and read about it. But they say that the centerpiece of their vision for education is the task force on teacher leadership and compensation. Under the leadership of Ryan Wise from the Department of Education, they have 13 recommendations, include plan to acquire $150 million from the state to support this program. How does this, you think, in the future will affect our allowable growth here?
I would be excited if there were $150 million additional dollars for our schools. I don't believe that that's in the cards. I think we will be robbing Peter to pay Paul for these new initiatives. I worry about, for example, the money that comes to help our class sizes. I worry about the money that comes to help our teachers with their professional development. I hope we aren't robbing those initiatives.
I think we're running out of time. So
what a pity.
We thank you very much, Dr. Feldman, and thank you, Mr. John Karoff. And forgive me for talking about art and not math, and you are one of the icons of math. Thank you, Mr. Mike Peterson. This show will be on Public Access TV, Education Channel, as well as YouTube. And we thank you again, and we would like to see you here again and again.
I respect you a great deal. It's an honor. Thank you.